Hey everyone, this is Zachary back for video number 2, and today we'll be doing our first art lesson. If you can kind of remember the picture I showed yesterday, so we'll try to see if we can kind of correct that. I have my friend Lorna here to give me an art lesson and just to see how well this will go. So let's see what we got for today.
Okay, so today I'm going to start with just a basic circle. We're going to try to shade that to make it look as 3D as we can.
Okay.
When you're drawing on a 2D surface and you're trying to make it look 3D, you have to be really conscious of shadows and light, and because it's all an illusion really, because it's all flat, you want to make it look like it's real, like it's kind of coming out of the paper.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing that I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you draw a really light circle so that it can be easily erased, and if you need to do that or changed. That's kind of how you want to work with any kind of drawing. You want to start out really light. So there's lots of room for mistakes.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a basic circle. Okay, so I drew a bunch of lines here. We want to stick with the ones that kind of make it look the most like a sphere. All right, so we have a basic circle. And we want to give it kind of a shadow.
Okay.
Underneath it.
Shadow.
That we're going to fill in later to give it more realistic look.
Gotcha.
Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start shading. We're going to start shading really lightly, just so that we can start filling it up with value. And you want to kind of make a direction, so you don't want it like a bunch of scratches going all in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
You want to keep a direction. Kind of like I'm just contouring the outline of the sphere.
Okay.
And notice how I'm kind of using the side of the pencil instead of the tip.
Okay.
Because you want to be able to spread it out more instead of giving it kind of like a really thin look like that. You want it to spread out.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, you want to start out really, really light. As with all drawing, you start out light so that you have plenty of room for mistakes. You can make corrections if need be, and you want to bring it all up together. You don't want one place to become too detailed before you move on to the other.
Okay.
And notice that the shadow is longer on this side, so that would indicate that a light source is coming from up here. So you kind of want to leave this area over here kind of really light, because that's where the light is going to be shining. It's going to be really messy at first. Don't think about it too hard.
All right. Just press on to the finished product.
Trust the process, as they all say.
Mm-hmm.
That's as good as I'm going to get with a really light pencil.
Okay.
Have a wide range of pencils to get this effect. You just have to make sure that the pressure that you're putting down is consistent with the look that you want to get. So you start out really light and then you get darker as you go.
Okay.
Having a range of pencils does help if you want to get like a really dark value. You don't have to push as hard, and which could ruin the tooth of the paper. But obviously, honestly, it's just up to the artist. It really doesn't have that much to do with what you have.
Okay.
So, I'm going to move on to a darker pencil. So I was working with a 2H, so let me move to a 2B.
All right, 2H to 2B.
Okay. Or actually, I'll just move to 2B. Okay.
All right.
So, I'm going to start shading this inner area here. This actually right here, this area right here is actually not going to be super dark. It's actually going to be kind of light in comparison to the middle ring here, because there's going to be, when there's a light shining down on it, there is a little bit of light that's reflected back up at the sphere. So for the sake of realism, I'm going to start shading in this ring here.
Okay.
And then leaving kind of this bottom area alone. It's going to look messy, and that's fine. You can leave it messy. Because towards the end, that's when you start doing things that are going to make it look more refined.
All part of the process, right?
Right.
Wow.
You can already see it's starting to come up with some definition. And you want to make sure that it has like a really good transition into each value. So even the lighter areas, you're just going to shade just a little bit with the darker pencil just to make sure that it has a smooth, granulated transition here.
Right. Nice blend together.
And now would be a good time for you to get caught up.
All right.
We're just gonna very, very lightly with the side of it. Almost like
Let's kill the bug on my paper.
almost like you're tickling someone with a feather, like super, super light. You don't really want to go too dark in the beginning.
All right. It's a few seconds in, and I've already killed a bug on my paper. All right, am I moving too fast or too
I would
hard?
hold my pencil a little more horizontally,
Okay.
almost like you're pinching something. Yeah, super light touch.
All right.
Another method that you could also use, instead of keeping only one direction with your pencil strokes, you can also do perpendicular to your previous strokes. So like would be a perpendicular
Right.
line. And doing that is called cross-hatching, and it actually is a method that a lot of artists use, especially in comic books and stuff like that, to achieve a depth effect.
Right. Okay.
So I would go ahead and erase like a little area around here, and that's going to signify the light that's coming down and shining on
Oh,
the sphere.
yeah.
So it's okay that you already filled it in. You can erase it though in order to make it look lighter.
Gotcha.
Or,
Okay.
and if you don't want to erase it, you could actually just use really dark values so that that looks light in comparison. But
Okay.
that, I will leave that up to you.
Okay. I'll try erasing it for now.
Alright. So just a little circle.
All right, right about here.
Yeah, right about there. In fact, your kneaded eraser might work better for that.
Okay.
Just kind of like lightly press down in that area. Instead of rubbing, just like press down. Pick it up and press it down, like dab it.
All right.
Yeah, around that area to give it more of a, that's such a harsh look. If that makes any sense.
Okay. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I would also kind of lightly press down in the areas around it,
Okay.
so that it doesn't look so harsh in this transition between this darker value and the lighter one. Okay. And so what you're kind of looking for is, in this area right here, it's really well shaded. It's kind of hard to see the lines. You don't really want to be to distinguish between the lines in each of this. You want it to be really even, really uniform. So if you can look right here in this area is really well shaded. You can't really see or differentiate between the lines that he made here. In this area, there's a lot of empty space, and there's a lot of darker lines in contrast with the lighter lines. So we want to push that further so that we won't be able to tell. Okay,
Okay. Think delicate thoughts.
think delicate thoughts.
Or this close enough, kind of like a kneading.
Oh, that's a good. I needed an eraser. That's good too.
Okay.
So just go ahead and mash that up, kind of like clay.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So go ahead and spread it out. And take that and just kind of lightly dab around this circle area.
All right. And dab, not rub?
Right.
Okay.
There you go. And now is when you transition into a darker pencil.
Okay.
So, or either that or you can just start pressing really hard. It's up to you.
Yeah. Okay. So is it like the higher the number, the darker the shade when it comes to?
That's a good question. So actually, it depends. If you're looking at the ranges of B, so B to 8B, the higher the number is, the darker it is.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. So B would be the lightest value for B, and then 8 would be the darkest value for B. And then you go to the H's, so it would be an H to about an 8H. So the higher number for the H's, the lighter it's going to be. So an 8H is going to be super light, and then the regular H is going to be the darkest for that range.
Okay. For this one, I will just press harder.
You can go ahead and actually you can borrow. You can use the 2B, right?
This is 2B.
Okay. So
Thank you.
so what you're going to do is you're just going to create a really dark ring right above here, and ignore this bottom area and kind of make it transition into this area closer to the light.
So like a band going around it.
Very, very light. You don't want it to get too dark too fast, because if you make it too dark too fast, that eliminates room for correction, and you just kind of want it to be really loose right now.
All right.
So try to be really, don't spend too much time in one place.
Oh,
Just
okay.
go really quick from one spot to the other. Don't pay too much attention to any one place.
Okay.
It's kind of like you have to kind of feel it out. The more you practice, the more attuned you're going to be and the more easy it's going to come to you. I would just start moving up a little closer to the light without making it too dark, too high up there.
Okay.
And another note, the closer that you get to the light, the lighter we're going to push, just so it gives it that gradient.
Okay.
So I would go ahead and take the kneaded eraser and just go again and making sure that we have a good gradient. Just start pressing around the light, and then the farther away that you get from the light, I'd start pressing a little lighter, just so we don't erase too much of that. Okay, it's looking good. You just got to keep in mind that there's no one way to do this.
Okay.
As long as the end product turns out how you want it to do, that's fine. So you started with a darker pencil, which is why it's coming up so quickly. If you want to spend more time on it and kind of make it look smoother, you can start with a lighter pencil. But a dark pencil is a good way to get results fast.
Okay.
So it's really up to whatever you want to do, what you want the end results to look. So this is actually a really good example of maybe a darker art style. So it's not going to look like perfectly smooth around here.
All right.
But actually, I think that these scratches right here kind of give it character, kind of give it like a style. And that's just what it is for all art, really, is that even like the little mistakes that you make can really make it really pop, make it look different. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and start with an even darker pencil and then really thicken up this ring around here and then leave kind of this area alone so that we can give it another layer.
Okay.
So what did you use just now? What pencil did you use?
This is a 5B.
70.
Okay.
So we're just gonna press around these edges right here.
All right.
With that dark pencil, we don't want to get too close to the light because we want to make sure that we maintain that illusion of 3D form.
You see the truth in the saying you can't rush art when you actually take up your hand at it.
It's one of the truest things about art, really, is that the more time you put into it, the more results you're going to get.
And that's what makes it special too. You get to look at all your hard work and what it's turned into. All right, this looking all right so far, Lorna?
Yeah, I would just start smoothing that out right here. See how you're getting like all these like hard lines?
So blend it together so it can actually look like kind of like a sphere.
Yeah, so the goal is we just don't want to see any lines.
Okay.
We want it to look completely smooth like a sphere would, maintain that illusion.
Okay. Maybe I stretched a little too far to the bottom.
That's fine. You can just go ahead and take the kneaded eraser and then, yeah, exactly. Start doing it just around here, right where this tone comes to meets this one.
Right here?
Yeah. Come all the way around that ring. Okay. And it wouldn't hurt to go back over it with a lighter pencil. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you this 2H.
Okay.
So you started with a 2B. I'm going to give you a 2H. Just really lightly kind of go around all of it.
All right.
Very lightly press around all of it. That's going to help it. That's just going to help it look more smooth.
Okay. Awesome.
It's going to fill in some of those gaps and stuff.
No lines, right?
Right. So this right here is like kind of like a harsh transition. You want it to kind of be smoother.
Okay.
So I just take the kneaded eraser one more time and just trying to make sure that it transitions really slowly, kind of like this part right here.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank goodness for erasers.
We're going to go to get another darker pencil.
Okay.
I'm going to give you an 8B.
Okay.
Once again, just hit this ring right around here in the middle of this darkest point.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just kind of focusing on cleanup.
Okay.
So I want to kind of harden the edges around the sphere so I can kind of make it look more physical. You want to use the same value that you used for each value at the end of the sphere. You also don't want it to make it too harsh because in real life there's no lines that surround the sphere, right? So you just kind of want it to transition really well. You don't want a hard line out of nowhere.
Okay, so
Just kind of thicken up the edges just a little bit.
okay,
Not too hard. Just want to make sure that it has kind of a physicality to it.
okay,
And so I would really kind of do the same thing you were doing before, shade really lightly around the edges.
Oh, okay.
Once again, you don't want a harsh line because
Right.
you want it to appear thin.
right, okay, gotcha.
So what I'm doing is I'm shading at the end and I'm kind of bringing it into the center. So I'll start at the edge and I'll bring it into the center.
Okay,
And just once again, like with anything, the more you practice with it, the more familiar that you get with values and shadows, the easier it's going to come to you. The more it's going to be intuitive for you to know which shade should go where and how far should I push it.
right, okay. This is kind of just like developing your own sense of style with it, you know, like each artist being different, while still going through the basics of it, I
This is
guess.
just the beginning of learning how shadows and values work in the real world. And this can actually be applied to even more stylistic choices, like in manga, for example, anime,
Yeah.
cartoons, stuff like that. Even they use some semblance of shadow in order to, they're not trying to achieve realism, but it at least makes it kind of more like real life. Like you can tell what it is because of that.
Okay. A manga or anime style, that'd be a nice video to do one day too.
Even those artists, like master cartoon artists and people who work in TV shows or series and stuff like that, they all started out just with the basics, just with learning how to shade, just with learning different where the shadows go, how light works, and
Yeah.
how light reacts with objects.
Right. All right.
Okay. So what I'm going to move on to next is I'm going to start working on the shadow. The shadow is the darkest part of this drawing next to this really dark ring around here.
Okay.
So, but once again, you don't want to go in heavy-handed. You don't want to go in scribbling it all in. A darker pencil might not get into all the grooves of the paper. So in that case, you would just use something that's a little lighter, like a 2B or a 3B, just
Okay.
to get in those gaps.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, it's looking good. What I would do is I would start darkening this just a little bit. In reality, the light would be kind of bouncing back around here where the darkest part of the shadow is, the deepest part.
Okay.
And this would be just a little bit darker, not a lot.
Okay.
And then I would work on, once again, the transition of values from here to here. We're still looking at some really harsh contrast right here. We just want to make it flow really smoothly. And yeah, I would just kind of lighten up these areas well.
Okay. All right. I guess we can do a side-by-side comparison now. I'll rotate the camera. Okay. Here's mine. And here's Lorna's. Okay. I'd say not too shabby for a first attempt.
Okay, so if I were to tell you to do this again, I would have had you start with a lighter pencil. You don't always have to use a light pencil to start out. It generally helps because you want it to build up so that you can correct any mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes when it comes to proportions. No one's going to get it right the first time. And I would have had you, it might be actually the tooth of your sketch paper. You see, if you look closely, mine has a lot of texture to it.
Okay.
And yours is smoother, and that's fine. You might need a different texture for like a different project. But I would have had you really lighten up your touch. I think you came in a little too hard, a little too dark. And that made it to where it developed super quickly.
Okay.
which is why the contrast was so harsh between the light areas and the dark areas. You really want it to really lightly transition into a darker gradient.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just for a more realistic look. That doesn't always apply, but if you want it to kind of look more realistic in the way that the light reacts with it, that's just my advice for that. So.
Okay, well, thanks again for helping with the video today, and hope we all learned something.